How you doing, YouTube? Matt Massive Beer Reviews, back with a beer I was actually surprised to see on a shelf. Not that I have no idea about the distribution of this beer, but I've only had this beer once, and that was at the last Festival of Farmhouse Ales from Hill Farmstead, poured by Tommy Arthur himself. And that would be their Citrus Sin. This is a American Wild Ale with blood oranges. As far as story time goes in the back, it says American Wild Ale with blood oranges. It says this great book tells us that sin takes on many forms, so naturally we challenge our brewers to look for inspiration through incarnation, jamming all 7 deadly sins in one beer. Introducing Citrus Sin, our brewer's imagination led us down a path of wild ale that has been resting like a sloth in our oak voters for the last year. They married this to a brand new golden ale, resulting in many strong feelings of brewer's pride. The sinful brew is spiked with sensuous lust, invoking blood oranges, but we added so much fruit it feels gluttonous. Not resting on their laurels, they finished it with a ravenous Brett whose wrath ensured a bone dry finish. We know you're going to really love our latest wild creation so much that you might not want to share it. Relax, that's just greed kicking in. If you do decide to share, your friends will be grateful, and all others will be filled with envy. Like I said, I had this at Hill Farms Festival of Farmhouse Ales, and it was absolutely fantastic. It was probably one of my favorite beers I had there. Thing is, I don't know the date on this. I tried to find a date for these, but I guess this is a rotational beer, and I don't date rotational beers. There's a date code on the bottom, but I couldn't decipher anything. From my understanding, this beer started to exist in 2018, so there's no way it's older than 2 years. I could be wrong. We'll see what's what. Label-wise, it is classic Lost Abbey, and what they do with their kind of old, kind of monastic kind of arching kind of label, blood orange graphic in the background. I've always dug their labels. They're quite nice, and they're classic 750 stylings. This beer is meant to be in 750s. It comes in at 5 and change, I think, maybe 5.8. As far as the beer goes, and I'm drinking it actually in the glass I drank it when I was actually at Hill Farms Festival of Farmhouse Ales. I thought it'd be a nice kind of full circle on this beer. Index finger, it's got rocky, creamy, soapy, everything you can possibly imagine with a head. You guys probably only seen those kind of medium to kind of microscopic bubbles as they taper down, and the soft, very soft carbonation. And I wouldn't call that hazy, but it's not perfectly clear beer. It has this ever so slightest bit of haze to it, but it has this rich straw golden color, so it looks pretty. That's what it looks like. So let's see if we can get a nose on this. Yeah, I mean it is really blood orange dominated here, but the kicker about that is that it marries so well with the tartness and acidity of the beer. It has to be that combination that's working because it's so harmonic. There's no kind of like, okay, I smell a tart, funky kind of beer over here. I smell this big citrus dose over there. It is that grapefruit, that Brett, and the tartness, acidity of the beer itself, all as one. There's no kind of like spikes of individuality there. Everything has melded together. It's kind of what I remember, to be perfectly honest with you. It was something, I think it was the first beer I drank at the festival, to be perfectly honest with you. Because I remember, you know, it's not that big of a festival. There's only about 8 breweries there. The one I went to, it changes every year when I have it. And, there's there's Hill Farmstead, a couple lines there, a couple lines everybody else. And me and Keith, I went with my buddy Keith, 93 Lumber, and we made a decision. We're not gonna get in the super long lines. We're just gonna kind of let everybody kind of jump in long lines, and we'll just kind of filter into the shorter ones and kind of just enjoy ourselves and not try to rush around. And I don't know why, but Lost Abbey's lines were not big throughout the whole day, let alone the beginning. And I believe this is the first one I had. And it kind of set the tone for the day in a very positive way. Let's dive in. Cheers. Awesome. It's so good. And it is exactly how the nose came off for me, to be perfectly honest with you. I'm not just saying it for the sake of me sounding like I'm correct, because it really is about what I'm tasting, so it doesn't really matter. But there is a Brett characteristic outside of just that dry finish that you get in the beer that talk about in the label that is citrus leaning. You get this tart, acidic portion of the show that is being produced outside of that citrus note from that Brett characteristic, from probably a bit of bugs and stuff like that outside of the even Brett, making it have this subtle, slight acidic tartness to it. And once you combine that with that blood orange, that big grapefruity characteristic, it's so in line with each other. It is just there. It's not, there's no separation between all those bits and pieces. Everything is melded in one big, for its ABV, 5.8%, big harmonic acidic tart. You're drinking blood oranges, but you know you're drinking beer, but it elicits such a cool sensation because there's no pause. There's no difference. It's the difference between listening to, not a lot of people like, electronic music, but it's like listening to a 1 hour set where somebody mixes seamlessly from song to song. You don't know where it begins and you don't know where it ends, as opposed to listening to music on a radio and then there's a cut and a commercial break and all that stuff. You can be fed the same music. You can listen to the same songs, but since it's one continuous non-stop thing in a correct mix that's fluid, and it's just beautiful. It's beautiful when things come out that way. And that's the way this beer kind of comes off. That acidity hits you right off the get from the beer, from the blood orange. You get citrus across the board, not just that kind of grapefruitiness you expect from blood oranges. You get a little bit of lemon peel in there. You're definitely getting a little bit of kind of like tangerine, not even orange vibes in there. What it is, those blood oranges, it is that kind of softer kind of grapefruit kind of vibe you got throughout the whole beer. That Brett brings a little bit more citrus to the table. That's where I think you're getting those other levels of citrus on the beer. And then you start to tail down in that real kind of fully attenuated, gobbled up sugars. That Brett that is completely dried out this beer dries it out, but not bone drying, like bone chilling, bone dry, crazy dryness. It's there, sure, but there's enough sweetness left, enough acidity left to where it's organic. It's that beer when I talk about beers that are kind of like they belong inside of you because the pH balance just kind of makes sense. That's where this comes from. The only difference being this one with that blood orange being the big pop on it, there's a showiness to it, a little bit of showmanship in a very cool and very positive way. So yeah, I mean, what else do you want to say? It's delicious. I had really kind of like, I say this a lot nowadays, but I go into these beers not trying to have preconceived notions, not trying to think about this, that, or the other thing about this beer, but I just remember it being very awesome and very romantic in the environment. My first beer at the festival, blah, blah, blah. So I had a little bit of elevated kind of expectations from this, and it's not just met them, it's exceeded them. This is a fantastic beer. I love this beer. This beer does not suck. So let's talk about it. This is one of the better tart sour beers, funky beers, mixed fermentation beers, I guess. I don't know where you want to put it. I've had as of late. Fighting back a sneeze. Ooh, didn't fight that one back. Is it? Yeah, without a doubt. It is Mount Rushmore status, especially right now. Just something about it. It's hitting perfectly in a very, very pretty way. Value availability, I want to tell you, I spent like kind of not much on this. I forget. I want to say $11 maybe, $10 all day on this. And leave you with, if you like what we like this. If you like that orange, if you like blood oranges, if you like Brett, that leans citrus, and you just like, well done, tasty beer. Listen, it's a Tommy Arthur, it's Lost Abbey. It's gonna be good beer, but it's not like every beer he's ever made I've been kind of gaga for. I'm gaga for this beer. So if you like the beers that I like, you'll like this. So there you go. Another review in the books. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. Down there if you want to talk about it. Massive beers. If you want to check me out doing this social media stuff, Beer Massif. I believe we interviewed Tommy before on the old radio days. We should do that again. We'll see what's what. So go check that out. Hopefully you guys enjoyed our review. Hopefully you're enjoying a little bit of Lost Abbey right now. We'll see you next time. Cheers.